Hey there, this is Fabo Mark Jabroni, and you're tuned into the next edition of Jabronology, or, well, whatever I've called it. I'm not bothering to look it up anymore. This past Monday, down at the Majestic Theatre here in sunny St. John's, Newfoundland, played host to the press conference to announce the re-emergence of Cutting Edge Wrestling, what they call the premier wrestling promotion in Newfoundland, and for the longest time they really were the best, I guess, or the only. Sometimes they were the only, sometimes they were the best, sometimes they were the only alternative to something else that was going on that people might not have wanted to see or couldn't get into. Now, Legend City Wrestling is complaining via their Twitter account, which is twitter.com/LCW709, that CEW isn't the only wrestling promotion in Newfoundland. They've been around for years, and they've been doing charitable acts, and they want a piece of that pie too. To which my response is, okay, go ahead. Call a press conference. I've got no problem with it. I have to assume CEW has no problem with it. Isn't that the way many performance, I don't know what you'd call it, a performance company, performance industry, many in the performance industry? How many wrestling promotions out there, big name wrestling promotions, have had press conferences before a wrestling show? Every year for WrestleMania, they have a press conference. When they announce where WrestleMania is going to be, they have a press conference. I believe even Impact Wrestling does press conferences as well. They have, travel packages and stuff. If you have a travel package or something, you should probably have a press conference to advertise it all. But that's not, that's not the way, apparently, they're choosing to see it. They're choosing to say, well, why can't we get in on this? Why isn't NTV News and CBC's Here and Now and all these other newspapers and all these radio programs, why aren't they all coming down to see our shows? And the answer to that is, you didn't ask them to. Cutting Edge Wrestling asked every single media outlet that showed up to show up. So they showed up. That's how it works. You ask them to show up, and they show up. To quote probably one of Kevin Costner's better movies, if you build it, they will come. But they need to know that you built it. You need to tell them. Case in point, how many media outlets did you invite to the meet and greet with Raven from back at the end of last year, back around Christmas time? I don't remember exactly when exactly it was. How many media outlets did you invite to come to the meet and greet with Al Snow? You've had at least those two big names. I saw another poster for Eric Young, with Eric Young posted as the most prominent star on that show from away, from on the mainland, from one of the big promotions. If you don't tell them your show exists, then they don't know your show exists. They have a need for local content. Both NTV News and CBC Here and Now both have need for local content. And Newfoundland Wrestling is local content. Legend City Wrestling also went and cried about when Championship Wrestling International came to town and quote-unquote stole their sponsors. But I actually spoke with Nick Wyman about that via text and face-to-face, because he was actually here in the province. I actually spoke to Nick Wyman about that, and he said, it's not that we stole their sponsors, it's just that those sponsors also work for CWI in Ontario, where CWI comes from, and they preferred to work with him. Now, that's just quoting Nick Wyman. You can go ask him yourself what exactly he meant by that. I'm sure he didn't mean as a slight for anybody running LCW. I'm sure he doesn't want to slight anybody in the wrestling industry, unless, they slight him first, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't think of anything they did as a slight, but you never know. The thing is, I wanted to actually communicate with one of the guys running, one of the higher-ups in LCW, Lance Romance, So I tried to send him a message on Facebook, found out I couldn't without sending him a friend request, and I said, okay, well, I'll send him a friend request and say in the message, in the friend request, that you don't need to necessarily verify my friend request, you just need to, I just wanted to send you this message. He accepted the friend request anyway. There was a little bit of communication, I don't really remember exactly what about, but one of the last and actually the last status I would have to say, that I saw him post to his Facebook was about CWI stealing their sponsors and advertising wrestlers who can't even come into Canada, let alone Newfoundland. I responded saying, well, the only wrestler I know of that he has advertised on for the East Coast Invasion Tour, who ever had any problems in the past 6 months before that show coming into Canada, was Scott Steiner. I never heard anything about anybody else having problems getting into Canada. And he responded saying, oh, leave it to someone named Mark Jabroni to have something like that to say. And then, of course, I had to respond to that. But in the middle of typing my response, when I hit send, to actually send him my response, I realized I couldn't post it for some reason. So I said, okay, what's going on here? So I went to his profile page, and it said, add as friend. It's like, wow, he unfriended me. In the amount of time it took for me to type my response, which never got posted after, my second response to what he originally had stated, to explain how it was, erroneous and borderline slanderous. If you chose to take it that far, it's borderline slanderous, saying that they have performers who can't even come into Newfoundland. That's like someone calling the cops at the very first CEW show and saying, boys, there's going to be people cutting themselves open at that show. Let's call the RNC and get them to show up, and then they'll have to arrest everybody. Yeah, so guess what? Guess who the new Millard is? Sorry, guys. I guess there's got to be an NCW in Newfoundland Wrestling, and, well, I guess by default, we all know who that has to be. And for those of you who are watching this video and know, what I look like underneath this mask and wonder what the hell is this idiot doing wearing a mask, it's like, this mask isn't for people to not be able to recognize me, because there's enough of my face, I think, visible that you can probably tell what I look like. That, and you go on Facebook under the same username as is on this YouTube page and look me up, and there's plenty of pictures of me without the mask on. There's some with the mask on, but there's plenty of it without the mask on. So the mask isn't about hiding my identity. The mask is sort of my YouTube gimmick, I guess you want to call it that. So until next time, when I have something else to say about the world of wrestling, either whether it be local here in Newfoundland or whether it be across Canada or around the world, stay tuned right here to my YouTube channel for the next episode, thrilling though it may or may not be, of Jabronology or whatever the Christ I'm calling it.